Okay, so here we go.
So, hey, I gotta stand up. I'm Ryan. I'm the CEO at Island Officials. I teach game design in Camden County. I'm a software engineer. We started unofficially in 2006. Then we started a little more officially, but not completely official, in 2007. We became an actual company in 2009. 2009. And we've done a bunch of apps, and we did a DS game. We had two more, well, obviously one that we finished up, and the other one's getting done soon. And we branched into card games, and we're trying to mess around with some board games. And, you know, we have, I guess there's about 25 of us right now, which is cool. We all work part-time, which is, you know, not so cool, but you know, that's why it takes us so long to do something. But yeah, so if you have any questions about us, we'll talk to you about it later. Oh, you want to do that?
Yeah. So when we first started, we started doing PC, and we moved our way on to DS, and then when the iPhone came out, we kind of started messing with iPhone and, you know, trying to figure out how it works. So we've done a handful of apps, and you know, we have over 100,000 downloads combined of everything.
The secret to that is most of our apps are free.
Right. And a lot of them are novelty apps, and a lot of it was just us trying to figure out how the phone works, because we were doing DS at the same time too. We started to really go more towards the business side of apps, such as the one we did right now is Joe Canals. It's actually a growler app for a
beer station. So
yeah,
in Jersey, certain liquor stores can sell beer on tap. So you can pull to this store. It's awesome. And you can pull to the store and find out what's on top, what the ABV is, how much it is, and get a little information about the beer too. So we're starting to roll around with some of those. But, yeah.
So what we've done, as of October 1st, we moved our office from the glass recycling factory that we were in a conference room upstairs, to an actual
we had 343 square feet.
So we actually doubled that. We're about like 650 now, and we're in Woodbury. So if you guys want to come check us out, we're right on 45.
That's in Jersey.
It is in Jersey, across from the Gloucester County Times. So come up and see us. But at the same time, what we're doing is, like we said, we love board games. We love games in general. So we're just kind of experimenting with everything. And what we're doing now is we buy, sell, and trade used board games, and that's what Tiki Tiki Games is. That's our division in the front, and then IO is in the back.
Keyword on front.
So if you guys have games that you don't want anymore, bring them to us. We'll give you a credit. You come and trade them, and we give you new games. So it's pretty awesome.
Not right now.
We're still waiting on PSC and G to give us power, so that's a whole other story. But at the same time, we're working on a couple different board games in the background. One is actually Linguini, which was actually a game that we did at the Global Game Jam last year. And we'll get into a little bit more what Linguini is. It's a very fun party game.
That's Papa Mustachio and his brother.
Yeah, so we're in the process now of putting together a really nice Kickstarter fund for this. So once that gets out, we'll spread the word.
Help us put that out there. Thank you.
Hell yeah.
The orange shirt.
We're only going for like $2,200 for our first goal. So.
Have you guys done one?
Yeah. Well, I did one for somebody and it failed miserably. The guy wouldn't listen to me. We've done a lot of research.
Yeah, we should do pretty well.
You guys can focus more on that. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that'd be fun.
We'll bring James to that too.
Yeah, we'll bring James.
So what we've done, obviously, Hands on Tangrams, which came out back in November of 2009, and we are.
It's available at Amazon.com.
This is our first project with the DS, and this was actually a very long process because, you know, originally we were licensed to Nintendo, we were working on unofficial tech, and then we had to get licensed, and once we got licensed, we had to bring everything over and basically write a good amount of the game. And then finally, video game gods liked us. After like 3 publishers later, we finally got published and put out in stores. So if you have not gotten this game, why have you not gotten it?
Really? You support?
It's only $14.99 on Amazon. It's in Kmart as well, and it's on a bunch of other .coms.
I saw it at Costco the other day. I was really excited.
So, And this has done pretty well for us, but again, we signed with the smaller publishers, so it's our first title, you know, the whole line. So we're happy to get it out. So once Tangrams was done, it was time to move into pattern blocks. So,
Oh, we're going to talk.
All right.
Hi.
So, okay.
Hi, I'm Adrian. I'm lead designer on Hands-On Pattern Blocks. I was technical director for Hands-On Tangrams. And one of the big things that we wanted to do with Tangrams was try and...
So Tangrams started, just to give you a brief synopsis, my wife's a preschool teacher, preschool special ed, disabilities kids. And so we have a lot of manipulatives in our house, and we go to the learning store a lot. And one day, my son and I were sitting in there, and he was like, "Dad, Tangrams would be an awesome game." And I was like, "Tangrams would be an awesome game. I'm stealing that." Well, he's under 18, so technically, you know, my son totally inspired us, so we did that. But at the same time, we were working on this game called We Love Cake, which is not a cooking game. It's about two kids who have to free their friend from the robot aristocracy. Pretty much you get to shoot robots.
Her name is Cakey Claire.
Yeah, her name's Kate. So we figured out that Kate was not at our skill level, and Tangrams could be at our skill level. So we switched over to Tangrams and started working on that. We got to talk about that.
Let me talk about that. We'll go back for a second. And I think the one thing, you know, we learned a lot from Tangrams. We really liked the whole environment of Tangrams, and basically the way Tangrams work is 10 levels, 10 puzzles, and each one had and when you create the puzzles, they came to life and continue on to the next puzzle.
Very basic if you've played it. It's pretty simple. Tangrams, 7 pieces, 2 big triangles, 2 small triangles, 1 medium triangle, a square, and a parallelogram. Are used to manipulate.
So one thing that we wanted to do is we kind of liked the art style that we had, and you know, with Tangrams we had a handful of different art styles, but we had a couple of levels that we liked and some characters that we kind of wanted to integrate. So when we really started to first design this with me, Adrian, and another guy that's not with us anymore, he didn't die, he's just not with us. So when we first sat down, we kind of wanted to create this universe, like this hands-on universe of just these different people, these different environments, and these different, you know, characters that we really liked from the early game. I think that was the first initial process with writing down. I mean, when I first wrote the initial design doc, that was just simple and easy. It was like, okay, this is the level. We're going to have 4 puzzles that are geared to the environment. We're going to have 5 puzzles that are like random, that are going to fill the story in, and then we're going to have 1 vehicle puzzle so that they can exit the level and then continue to the next level and continue the adventure. So that was like the initial basis for when we wanted to start Pattern Blocks and how we wanted to kind of take it from where we were to where we were going to go. So then we'll just talk quick about the difference and kind of talk a little about the Tangrams. So Pattern Blocks are a lot different than Tangrams just because you have 7 pieces for Tangrams and you realistically have an infinite amount of Pattern Blocks, but we capped it at 30. And the one thing that's really different about Pattern Blocks is that you can create the same object with using different shapes.
Yeah, so the mathematical properties of them is that certain shapes will make the larger shapes, so you can figure that out as you go along, or it'll make partial shapes in there. But we love manipulatives, and we hated Tangrams by the time we finished working with them. So it was time to move on to some new blocks, is what we wanted to do. So we picked up Pattern Blocks, and we started messing around with them. We had a whole bucket of them in the office. And after we got done throwing them at each other, we started making puzzles. It was good. But Karen, why don't you tell us a little bit about adventure of this?
Okay, well, when we created Hands-On Tangrams, it was basically just completed the puzzle, and when you completed it showed a picture like that bear over there.
Okay, yeah.
And then it would fill in a scene on the top screen. So you're basically just filling in the scene, but if there's any story, you have to make it yourself.
We have plenty of stories for each level if you want to talk about it.
But yeah, it's pretty basic and straightforward. But we wanted to expand on that a lot with Pattern Blocks. So we actually had these cutscenes that would play out between the levels, and you had the characters interact with each other. There'd be a more concrete story that you can follow along from. So as you see these 2 screens over here.
Yes, if you look at the bottom too, you can see the difference in just the gameplay itself. So on the left is tangrams, and there's 7 pieces, and those 7 pieces would be on the shadow area. And then you can just basically take them over, flip them, and rotate them to different sides of the analog. On the other side, you have 6 different buttons, but each one of those buttons can be hit multiple times to add more pieces actually into the puzzle itself. And we actually put together, we won't talk about this before, but there's actually a point system based around each one of the different shapes that you use in order to unlock things in the game itself. And this was just kind of part of our initial concept of getting away from it just being a stale top school, not really stale, but just being a regular, just flat
Scope. We just wanted to add scope to the project.
yeah, give it more, bring it more life more. So,
Yeah. So Ray said earlier before that each level had we made up our own little stories, which was a lot of fun. Like we had these really creative characters. Like in Tangrams, every level had a different artist working on it, and each artist brought like such a life to it that you see the little boy. We said so much about this little kid. He kind of looks like what you imagine a Japanese RPG character. Kind of look like the spiky hair. We imagine what he'd be like when he was older. So we wanted to bring him into the story. We wanted to bring the robot into the story, which you can see that he did. That was.
Yeah, we instantly fell in love with the robot when we were making Tangrams. So he we put him on the cover, and we just liked him a lot. So.
And with name-wise, the robot is Orion, and the little boy is Ryan. And at that point, in the office, we had like 5 Ryans in the office. There's like me and him, and then a handful of other guys. And then it was at the point where we were just going by last names because it's just easier.
Except for me.
So we were like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if there was another Ryan, it was Orion and Ryan together, and then it kind of just was. There's a lot of inside jokes in this game that only we get, which is terrible.
We tried to I wouldn't say that.
We tried to include jokes.
Yeah, it was more about taking these inside jokes and making them accessible so that everybody can kind of get a laugh with us.
Yeah.
By the end of it, everybody will be talking about.
And instead of calling it a sequel, what do we come up with? It's a spiritual successor.
We do want to do enhance it.
Yeah, we want to do a Tangrams.
Mechanics and,
Maybe
It's a spiritual successor. Expanding our hands-on universe. Yeah. Yeah, as you can see, a lot of the characters that popped up into the game were really characters that we started with, just different puzzles from Tangrams, like we were saying. So, when Orion lands on Earth, he meets this farmer inspired by the original farmer, that kind of stuff. So.
And again, a lot of what we would do is we just kind of pick and choose who we wanted to go with. And originally, we had a good amount of levels chosen, and once those levels we chose those. We chose those different levels. A lot of levels that we chose in the beginning were just old Tangram levels that we just kind of started to integrate into it. I mean, you can see the difference on what it was. I mean, with the top screen Tangrams, that was all just drawings, and everything else is all sprite work. We've done really. I mean, the more we see this game, the more it came together. The sprite work is really what puts together. We like to call it high def Super Nintendo.
Here's just some more of the characters that we popped into the game. Some more one that. Yeah, Space T-Rex.
all of the introductions to explain the Ryan's story, who he is.
And with the last game, like Adrian was saying, we had about 7 different artists do all 10 levels of the game. So, there was something that we wanted. We kind of wanted that activity book kind of style where it was like something different every time because you're doing the same mechanics over and over again. And with this game, we really wanted to keep the art style consistent.
Adrian?
This is more of a sharing. You were in Tetris DS. That was like all you.
All right. So what year was it? 2005?
The thing was towards, we're going into 2010 maybe. The Tangrams came out in 2009.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, we took that whole month in December off, so.
It was 2009. No, it was June 2009.
Anyway.
Talk about Tetris DS for a second.
Oh, yeah, what's
And Tangrams was about what the sequel would be when it came out is. And we already knew we wanted to go with pattern blocks. We were trying to figure out how we make this game different from Tangrams. And I started thinking about Tetris DS, how it's actually playing Tetris in the modern game on the top screen, and you've got this little like platform playing out for you. So I was thinking something like that, only more story-based. We talked about it like story before we did that, just to scope down a little bit. So we wanted to revisit that. So we decided like kind of go with that 2D side scroller feel to it, and that was kind of the approach to that.
So what Ryan was saying before, yeah, why don't you pick that up?
Oh, yeah.
So one of the big differences for Tangrams and pattern blocks is we lack a consistent art style because we had 7 different people doing the things. So we went with Matt. Where's Matt? Hi, Matt. So we went with Matt to do all the concept work for all the characters and stuff like that. And then where's Kristen? Hi, Kristen. Kristen did all like the backgrounds and stuff like that. So we wanted to go with a more consistent art style, and then the rest of our art team filed in and did like all the animations and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk a little bit about how you take the concept and explain it.
So,
Steps.
yeah, so similar functionality in theory to Tangrams, and it should have been similar, right? It wasn't at all, and we were dumb for thinking so.
Well, I think the first thing was we had a very like throwing together anything that we were using for
I wouldn't even call it a pitch.
It was.
We made it work, so we made Tangrams work. We have this 10 steps we talk about in the office. We're like, yeah, Tangrams is a 1, even though it's on the second flight of stairs because you go from like mod and screw around with games and stuff like that to actually getting a game out there. So like on a difficulty rating to make the game, we would call it a 1. And then we really thought that pattern blocks, we were stepping it up. And we were like, yeah, it's like a 2.5. We're in between the second and third step. That's where we are.
Yeah.
We wanted to do right after Tangrams.
No, we skipped like, we wanted to do cake and we were kidding ourselves. We should have done cake is what we should have done. But because not only did we have a puzzle game, but we also had a pixelated adventure on top of it. And that was, it added, I don't know what, like a year's development?
Yeah, like it's not like when you do.
It's not like the system died or anything like that.
It's not like when you do a side scroller because you have like one character through most of the game. You can do like tricks like palette swaps and things like that. This is like basically you're making a movie. So you have individual cast members, which each need their own individual sprites and need their own individual animations. So like having this like a crazy amount of variety that the game does, you end up having like a crazy amount of art. We're going to talk about how we had to manage that later on. More gameplay.
So I mean, this was part of the assessment we wanted to take too, which is that we really wanted to listen to what people had because there's a lot. I mean, we got a lot of feedback from a lot of people either that we knew or online and things like that. So we really listened to what people wanted, and the one thing that people really wanted was just sort of more. That's really what it came down to. They wanted to be able to do. We added a little bit of replayability to Tangrams, and you beat the game, you go through, you beat all the puzzles. You can go back to a free play mode, and you get gold, silver, bronze, and stars, and you try to get golds for everything. And I mean, that threw a lot more time in there, and a lot of people played everything through again to try to get all the golds. And Pattern Blocks was more of like, there was just more that we could do just because of the shapes, and now we had the adventure part into it. And I think there was a point where the 3 of us had sat down and we really kind of didn't think about the guts of everything. We're like, all right, we got these 100 puzzles, and we've got these 10 levels, and we've got this adventure mode with this whole thing, which is awesome. And I was like, what do we do everything done? And we're like, okay. Play it again? We're like, no. Wrong. So then we came up with, we'll talk about those more, some different varieties.
Yeah, so like we were saying, 100 puzzles, 10 themes, 10 levels, that's it. Free play mode added to it. And then, it was a little bit, but then for pattern blocks, we expanded. We have adventure mode, free play mode, a sandbox mode, a challenge mode. We added a shop to it. There's an extras mode, and then there's two profile saves over the only profile save in the first one.
There's a lot more you can do, and one of the things that we added was the shop mechanic, just because it gave people more initiative to solve puzzles different ways, just because you get different points for each one of the different blocks. And of according to how many you use or how many you don't use, you get certain points, and it allows you to unlock all the different abilities. And there's modes that you can unlock and allow. I mean, we really beefed it up, and there's a lot more to it than just beating the game and being done. Even though the game itself is probably about 5 or 6 hours for DS, which is not too shabby.
And I think it's really a building of all the things that we wanted to put in the Tangram, so we were able to go back and do that. So
I mean, a lot of the Tangram stuff was just us not knowing what the hell we were doing.
Yeah, it was our first time, very first project.
somebody's got to be into it.
Yeah. So here's just some quick shots of some of the different modes that you'll be able to encounter in this. On the bottom is Paul Buckley, who is,
Junkyard, scrapyard, scrapyard, something else. You'll see when you play the game.
And
we integrated that character into our shop functionality.
so he's the shop. He's the shop, and you have the different modes to unlock and use your points. And then there is free play mode, which is the second one here. Basically, you can go back and redo all the puzzles that you've beaten, and you can just play them again and just try to get either more points or beat your high score for that puzzle. Extras is everything that you unlock from the shop. Plus, you can also rewatch the intro and do the credits. And then challenge mode, which is something that we actually had a lot of fun designing. Challenge mode is basically limitations on how many pieces that you can use. So, for instance, that's like a forge puzzle. It's the hoe, and you have to beat it in 13. Yeah, good lines. You have to beat that in 13 pieces without using squares. So, I mean, it really makes you think and really puts you in a different way.
Yeah, you unlock other items in the store. As you play through the game, music that you play, that's how you unlock your music, and from beating adventure mode, you only unlock a few things, but from playing challenge mode, you get to play, you unlock other things. There's a lot more incentive to really dig into the depth of the game.
So, what went right? We did a couple things right, which doesn't happen very often. So, Karen, you want to start with that?
Well, do you want to explain the plan?
So we have another thing in the office called Plan 17B. You know how when you're trying to do something, you run into brick walls? Well, we figured out for every step that we do, we've run into 17 brick walls. So we now come up with 17 A and B plans for every single obstacle that's ahead of us. So we almost changed the name of the company to Plan 17B. But, you know, like, it's what business is, you know, it's what development is, so it's what game design is. So, you know, you get used to it, you roll with it, you get angry, you get sad, you get happy, you get drunk, you know, all these things happen. So. And then things that went right are progression between tangrams and cake, dropping cake, doing tangrams, realizing what our skill levels were, things like that. So.
Okay, so one of the biggest things we learned, I think, was from working on tangrams was, like I was mentioned before, we had a number of artists. I think we had anywhere between 7 and 10 at any given time. And at that point, we didn't really know what everyone's skills were. And everyone just wanted to create art. So we're like, okay, well, everyone can create some art. So we had 10 levels. Everybody take a level and go here with that level.
Yeah, we didn't want to like squash anybody's buzz or anything. You're like, no, you're really good at this, and they thought they were good at something else. So we're trying to.
We didn't know what they were good at.
Yeah, we didn't know either. Yeah.
So we found out the hard way.
Yeah.
So you know, we came out because we wanted to. When we were designing tangrams, we were thinking it would be kind of like almost like a children's book where every story in the book was written by a different author. Like every level would be done by a different artist. And in some ways that worked out. It did give a lot of variety to the art in the game, but it also gave the game a lot of inconsistency, and it involved a lot of rework.
Lots of rework.
Yeah.
Last minute rework.
Well,
Yeah,
so,
so right. Toward the very end of Tangram, we found out we had a little bit more time, so there was this one level in the game, Park, that really didn't fit into any of the other levels. It had been done in colored pencils, and at first we thought, oh, that would be kind of cool, but it didn't match.
It wasn't cool.
No. So we're like, crap. Can we redo this entire level in a week when all the other levels take a month or so to do? So at that point, it was the end of the development cycle. So we knew what everyone was good at that point. So, and the original artists who had worked on that whole level, we already left the team. So there were 3 of us who ended up just coming together and saying, okay, you're good at this, you're good at this, you're good at this. You take this part and let me know when you're done. I'll take over from there. And we got it all done in a week. And now it's one of my favorite levels of the game. So that kind of informed our decision on how to go forward on Hammer Blocks. And so we created a more interesting art pipeline where, as was mentioned before, Matt did all the character, all the concept art, worked on the backgrounds, and then there were 3 of us who did most of the animations, and some other people who did some other character animations. There were people who were just dedicated to formatting his sprites to make sure the color palettes were correct and they were in size and everything like that. Then once we started working on cutscenes, there were people who were dedicated to creating cutscenes. So it was a lot more organized. We used a lot more spreadsheets to keep track of everything. We created a wiki that had all the character sprites, all the character animations on it, with the number of frames, if the animation looped or didn't loop.
We had everything named in certain ways,
Yeah.
so everyone knew exactly what everything was.
And that was really for the programmers actually, and for the people who were working on the cutscenes, so they would know, okay, that's what this animation actually is, this is what it looks like. Especially for people who were creating cutscenes, they were kind of directing the cutscenes too. They had to figure out which animation was most appropriate for this line of dialogue. So they could just look at the wiki and they'd be able to see everything right from it. And there's all kinds of other information. We had all the backgrounds way out there. When Christian signed the background, someone else might have been actually putting the tile set together. So they need a reference picture for what is it supposed to look like when you just got a bunch of tiles. So it was very, very useful. Also, when we were finishing up Tangrams before we actually, when Kevin was still in the design stages, a lot of people on the team hadn't worked with 2D art before, they hadn't worked with sprites before, they hadn't worked with tile sets before. So we did weeks, like all summer, we pretty much. Yeah,
8-10 weeks.
Yeah, we just sat down.
School in session.
Yeah, and we had assignments every week, and everyone would just learn the thing. That's how we really found out who was good at what, and that helped us figure out who was going to be handling the different tasks.
Not all those people.
Number of more.
Yeah, we kept a lot. We lost more tangrams.
Yeah.
Did that?
Yeah, they all got. Come work for us, but don't leave.
The bottom line, we finally took more control of the project, and we took more of a systems engineering approach to it, and sat down and looked at the entire scope of the project, wrote our requirements, got the proper tools to do so. In the meantime, the art team was working on their skills, the tech team was working on prototyping, and the design team was working on building everything up. So we were doing everything properly, which was weird because we didn't do that in Tangram. So.
Did you guys share the activity list or the activity list at some point?
It's
Maybe like,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. There'll be a slide of it. It'll be small.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
We came up with a couple different ways of organizing ourselves just so we can keep it all together. I mean,
Like, we really took multiple approaches. So we did a little waterfall, we did a little scrum, we did, just really made it.
A little bit of work, when we started on that, because a lot of this organization was going mid-development, and that was a little bit of a problem. We'll talk about that later on in the slide.
I mean,
I feel like we've tried many of these different things, and we always keep going back and forth.
That's all right.
and the one thing that I was doing too, with, we had a storyboard about all the top screens, like all the level from start to finish, and what animation that they do, and how it works, and then what happens, and then the puzzle that's made, and then where it goes, and then me and Adrian were working on, and Karen were working on doing all the storyboards, and then once the storyboards were done, we would take those storyboards and then we would give them to the tech team. And the tech team and the cutscene team would then go in and make those cutscenes according to the storyboards. And I mean, we're going to get into tools in a little bit, but it's been a lot. And we've learned a lot in organizational wise how to keep everybody together. And part of this is our advanced stuff too. So you want to talk about this?
Yeah, so Ganning software, Microsoft project and stuff like that. Anybody who uses project knows how robust it is, and how for anybody who doesn't use project, when they look at it, they're completely overwhelmed and like, what the hell? Not to mention it's a little expensive. So we went with Team Gantt. Team Gantt at the time was an open free beta, which was awesome. And they were improving stuff as it go along. And like, you know, we'd give them feedback on something and they'd actually fix it. You know, they put it into the requirements, which was really cool. But ultimately, it had a lack of features overall. It was a little slow and sluggish, and it had a bad user experience to it. Like a lot of our developers just couldn't wrap their brain around it. So we ended up starting to use Gantter, which is free, part of Google Docs. Or it's related to Google in some capacity.
It's an app.
So it's an app. Yeah, it's an app for Google is what it is. And you know, it gave us task descriptions and number of tasks and who was assigned. It just gave us all the features we were looking for. And it was still light enough for people to wrap their brain around. So I highly suggest it. And then we can export it to Open Project. I can put it in a Microsoft project if I need to. And like, you know, you can, it's pretty versatile. So we're a big fan. We're a big fan of Gantter. So and I stumbled across it one day, which was cool. Go ahead, H.
Okay, so on hands-on tangrams, there wasn't a lot of testing. It was something that we wanted to do, but again, time and experience, especially our publisher, really wanted the game.
First thing you get cut, right? First thing it gets cut, unfortunately.
Yeah, like the game was done, it was ready, and the publisher was like, okay, I can give that to us. Like, well, we still got. But as a result, what happened with that? Was the treasure chest, really. Like, there are some weird difficulties, not just the treasure chest, there are some weird difficulty spikes in tangrams. And unfortunately, the way you play tangrams is as you play, it unlocks levels. So, you know, it creates this barrier for a lot of players. I have a friend of mine at work that
12 puzzles. 12 puzzles.
Yeah, 12 puzzle in the game of 100.
Now,
one of my friends.
Adrian and I passionately disagree about this point to a certain extent, but we actually finally, after 2 years, have come to terms with each other about it. Is spatial displacement is different for each and every human being. Okay? The treasure chest is puzzle 12. I've seen a little kid beat it in 14 seconds. It took us 19 minutes the first time we played it.
It's still hard.
All right? It's a hard puzzle. Any of the, what seems to be square puzzles are difficult, generally. Unless they're not difficult for you, and then awesome for you. So like, we themed our game as opposed to tested our game out with difficulty. So like, we didn't just cram puzzles down your throat. We wanted to put a little story in there. But what happened is we had to sacrifice playability. And like, we've gotten phone calls or emails from people who are like, your game is broken, you suck. You know, and we're like, oh, treasure chest, now you're on puzzle 12. And they're like, yeah, they're like, here you go, here's our cheat sheet, you know, so we've had
We had to put the cheat sheet on the website.
On the website,
so we're
yeah.
getting like that. But I think part of that allowed us to learn from it in pattern blocks. I mean, there's probably about 24, 25 puzzles that we redesigned, remade, moved and redid it just so it played.
And there's like 2 puzzles in the game that we call the Tangram's Paradox. One of them is the giraffe. You can solve it with 6 pieces.
Yeah, people freak out over that.
People are like, your game is broken. We're like, in the instructions it says you must use all 7 pieces.
Right.
That's our fallback.
He talks on the phone like that.
Yeah. It was mean, man. I was like, it says in the instructions. She's like, I didn't get instructions. I got it used. I was like, click.
But no, like, yeah, so what we did was, I can move on. Yeah, I just wanted to say that, like, basically what this meant was a lot of spreadsheets. You see a couple of our spreadsheets here. These are the ones we use for scoring to balance out the store, which is something we're still in the process of doing now. We're still in the process of doing testing. Right now it's mostly internal. We're going to open up to external soon.
We'll feed you.
Yeah.
More than pretzels.
Because we're able to fight the difficulty spikes that we saw, and actually, honestly, with the pattern blocks, the problem was that a lot of the puzzles were just too easy. Like a lot of them were like the very first batch of puzzles, there was one that would be like solvable in like 4 pieces, and you could immediately tell what they were by looking at them. So I was able to like go back and fix them up with our tool set and talk about those.
Yeah, I mean, and some of the pattern block puzzles were like a little too easy to put in the challenge mode, so we actually added 6 or 7, 8 puzzles that are not in the adventure mode or in the challenge mode, just so they would be more challenging.
And what we found also is after an extent, we became numb to the fact that we could beat every puzzle in 18 seconds. Like, that's my claim to fame in Tangrams. A I'm like, I beat that game in like 4 minutes. You know, people are like, up yours. But, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I think this touched on a lot of things I already said.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're still continuing to test as we get closer and closer to trying to find a publisher. We'll have like dates. We'll open up to the Philly IGDA. I definitely think so. We've got everybody. We've got family members. We've got a whole wide of different age demographics. Like Ryan, whose daughters. I've got some cousins that play the game.
My mom's been playing the hell out of it. She's like, this puzzle pisses me off. I'm sorry, Mom. Like, she calls me out of the blue. That's all I got.
But that's the only way we were able to fix these puzzles, though, really, were with better tools.
Oh, tools. And lack of tools in 10 years.
As in no tools?
We didn't really have any tools. Like, so all the outlines that you saw.
We read about them.
All the tools that, all the outlines that were in hands-on hangers, like a bunch of people. It wasn't just the art team, like the art. We actually got together at Camden County College. We went to the computer lab there. And we did all that in Photoshop.
We didn't have an office.
That's when we were working at Camden County.
Yeah. After class, we'd roll in there. Everybody'd show up. I'd be like, okay, let's go.
And the whole time, it was like, man, wouldn't it be nice if we had something where we could like just take, make a puzzle, and then an outline would just pop out from after we made the puzzle. And one of our programmers was like, well, like, why don't we do that?
And in theory, anybody was supposed to be able to use this.
Theory.
Like playing sandbox.
Yep, that's the puzzle gen. You can see the puzzle generator tool on the side and see how it kind of compares to the game itself.
Really? Yeah. Even I can use it.
Basically,
Press the button.
Yeah, you press the
Pops
button
up.
and you make the puzzle that you want to make, and then it creates an outline for it in a custom file format that we were able to import into the engine, and then boom, pops it out, and we're good to go. So we were able to have, like, I mean, one of the other things that we were talking about was we had a lot of meetings. I mean, at one point we were doing design tech on Fridays, our meetings on Saturdays, Sunday was tech, and then Monday was design tech and art. So we had like 3 days to get what we can done, go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. 3 days, and we did that for a very long time until all of a sudden one day we was just like, my schedule's ridiculous anymore, I can't do anything. So right now we do Fridays and Saturdays, but part of that was us going into the tool, and everybody was just in the tool, just making puzzles, saying, all right, well, we want to do maybe a carrot and maybe a broccoli. So everybody would go, oh, how does that look? And that was part of our art meetings for a long time too. So.
The last thing was the cutscene tool. So very early builds of the game were hard-coded by the programmers, and this was not a very good idea.
Hard coded, which took forever to do.
Yeah.
To do just like the first 2 puzzles for the farm, which is basically the beginning of the game. The rocket ship crashes into the barn, which is we see over there. He pops up out of the ground, and then we have a cow. Cow. Puzzle, I think.
Oh, no, we had the first one.
We had the first 3 puzzles, but I mean, it took one of our programmers like a month at least to do all that.
Right.
It was crazy.
And one of the other problems was the communication breakdown for us, because when me and Karen were talking about how we wanted to do these cutscenes, we wanted it to be very theater-like, almost like puppet theater kind of thing, kind of play going on. And so the language I'm using, because I have a little bit of a background in theater, I have a little bit of background in film, the language I'm using is not the same language that the programmers were using. So a lot of them would come back to me like, hey, I don't know what a beat is, and it takes a while to try to like explain these concepts to someone who's completely foreign to them. So it just became really apparent that we needed some kind of tool to make these cutscenes so that me and the design team would have some kind of control over it without having to like put it all on them. So we did that.
There were a lot of headbutting going on. It was rough. Like, I'd roll in late, they'd already be in mid-meeting, and people would be screaming at each other, and I'd be like, hey, what's going on? And I'd get told to shut the hell up, It's like, I'm everybody's friend. Now, what the hell's going on? It was nuts, because we had to adapt our vocabulary to the tech team at that time, as opposed to being able to meet somewhere in the middle. It's like, this is a tree. No, dude, it's a plant. It's a goddamn tree. You're right, man. It's a tree. It's a tree. Yeah, That, I mean, he would fight with bus drivers, and it was fun stuff. So, but we love the guys. So. But we need it. So. Well,
Yay.
What went wrong?
Yay. That's another quick snapshot of the in-game tools that we have.
Yeah, that's what happens. This is what it looks like when you're actually making something in it. So the cutscene tool, not as elegant as we probably like, and there are several reasons for that. First is probably the lack of usability testing. Like a lot of our programmer kind of put it in front of us, like, okay, give it a shot, see what you think, and we're using it.
it was up here. It was way up here.
Well, I think part of it was that after we started to use the tool, we kind of explained it when new people were starting to use it, that it was like, you had to pretend like you were talking to a fourth grader, but in the tool set, which made it even more ridiculous. So you had to do things that didn't make any sense to make it do something on screen that made sense.
So we had this tool that he could make this thing work like nobody's business. And we had a problem, he'd fix it immediately, and then he left. And we were like, And the job he went to, he was under a non-compete, so we really couldn't talk about it unless we were in somebody's basement without any speakers anywhere. Anyway, but yeah, little things like this.
Example of what the state of the scripter was after.
You can file, edit. You have extras, tools, and help, and you can file and edit again. Oh yeah, we totally crashed the entire thing. So don't use those.
Is there a crash?
There's different tabs behind here too, and then you hit these tabs, and it gives you another
80 other tabs. Tabs everywhere.
Great theory.
Pete gets the work on it
Yeah,
all day.
Pete's very
Say
familiar.
hi,
Come here, say hi, Pete. This is Pete, everybody. Pete's shy.
Pete loves the tool set, right?
Pete's not shy.
Very sophisticated.
It's
also a very beautiful piece of software. All the tabs.
Don't hit the screen.
I think Microsoft's good takes from this.
You know Tabtacular, don't you? Tabtacular.
Yeah.
Just we're on
I think we went over.
Yeah,
I think you guys did.
we beat that.
Lack of in-game art utilization.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this is wonderful. So, when we started development, after the design document was finished, we went right into making art. And we kept making
Like
art.
that.
Yeah.
Running full steam. It was awesome.
We had 10 artists. We were give us art to make.
They were dying for it. They were like, give me art. Okay, here you go.
And she was like, how many characters in this game? 30 something.
I don't really want to talk about
Okay, let's not talk about raincoat. You can see the raincoat.
There's totally a raincoat in this game, and I despised the raincoat because I had to redo everyone's
Talk about some more later.
Yeah. So we had a list of all the art assets of the game. So at that point in time, anyway, we started out with a really massive list, so it was enough to start with, and then more I added later, like raincoats. Anyway, so we just all right, let's start working, and then all right, when do we get to see this in the game?
In 18 months. What the hell's your rush?
What? We didn't really have an engine. Anyway, it's
We had tools.
Well, also,
we didn't have tools at this
Oh, yeah,
point.
in the beginning, we started to work, we started to we did a lot of the hard coding. So the first couple of months of development was kind of just oh, let's just go. And then we were like, well, maybe we should just kind of make an engine for this. So then we went into engine development for the game that we kind of already had in production.
So we had the first puzzle demo, and that's all we had for, 13 months?
Pretty much.
Yeah, 13 months. And so everybody was morale was down here. Everybody, I think Kristen shot 3 people in the streets. It was rough.
So we had, all we could do was make mock-ups in Photoshop and hope that would, how it worked in the game.
But boy, did we make some mock-ups.
Oh, yeah. And not always how it worked in the game, because in reality, DS has technical limitations that we were aware of from working on Tangrams, but there were things we weren't aware of. Well, we thought, okay, well, these characters can share cows, right? Well, the engine set up,
Everything works in theory. It doesn't, by the way.
So we had to
It's a
do
lot.
a lot of rework, because we had to work around the limitations of the engine at the time. Because if someone didn't know how to fix it, we had to do our work for it.
And then we went through the ODS stage where we'd be sitting there and we talk about things and we're like, oh, well, we need a Ryan with a baseball glove because of the level. We're like, oh yeah, we need the baseball glove animation. And then there were items that we had to
Back to
do.
the requirements list.
Oh yeah, you know what we forgot, that's what we call that. And that really all actually feeds into the next slide,
Yeah.
which is late start on project management.
Yeah.
We did a really good job on project management, but again, this was all developing from Tangram, so like a lot of the...
So we learned a lot from Tangrams, but we didn't learn everything we needed to learn yet. And
Right.
we, 17B.
So like this activity list that you see here, yeah, that you're asking about, yeah, like this little sample here, like even this didn't come in until very late in production. We're glad that we have it now. It's just a breakdown of every single task, and it also shows what tasks need to be completed before tasks. Again, this came so late that there was a reason why, what about shared palettes in the engine? They should have been there, but because we didn't have an activity list to like list all these things that we needed.
Poor communication between teams for-
Yeah.
in the
Well,
beginning.
For various reasons.
That was my fault entirely. I put everybody in pockets because we had a couple of volatile elements. Thank you, Pete. We had some egos that needed to be kept in pockets, otherwise they affected other teams and other members of teams very heartily in a bad way, like murder. So we needed to keep those people in a separate area, which
Our team is very violent.
yeah, we're from Jersey, you guys understand. But we had to keep them separate for a good long while until we figured out that those were the root those particular people were root problems in a lot of what was going on. So then we just cut them out. So, and we're friends with everybody. We get along, and stuff like that. That's how, it's like boys. Boys punch each other, girls hold grudges. We got a lot of boy love going on. So, it's like. Thank you. Better. Make sure you write that thing. Boy love. Thank you. Totally my fault. Keeping everybody in pockets, bad. Letting everybody communicate, good. Squashing egos, my job. Okay.
We had different things too, like we do agile updates every 3 and 4 days, and that worked out good because it was like what we're doing, what's going on, and what's in the pipeline kind of deal. But the problem was that after people got done tasks, they didn't really know what to do next. So they'd be like, hey, what should we do? We're like, oh, well, let's work on the interface now. Okay. And then people work on the interface, and they're like, okay, I've done the interface.
What do we do now?
How long have you been done for? I've been hanging out for like a week. Like, a week?
Yeah.
What?
Because we all generally work part-time and we all have crazy schedules outside of island officials, it's like connecting with each other is sometimes like our music guy works at night. Like I'm talking from midnight until 7 a.m. That's it. Comes to island officials, goes in at night, leaves at 7 o'clock in the morning. So you either need to be there at midnight, which I'm not, I'm asleep by 9 o'clock, I'm home. Or you need to be there at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then he's not very amicable then. We'll do questions at the end. So yeah, conclusion.
Yeah, conclusion, takeaways.
Start project management today, if you haven't already. I know it's like a duh, right? You're like, yeah, but you don't really understand the scope of project management until you're midway through the project, and you're like, what do you mean we don't have an asset list?
Yeah.
Shit.
I think that's one of the big
Yeah.
Also, the importance of having a finished game design document and a finished, which I don't think we've ever made, technical design document together, hand in hand, with then allowing the art team to.
But you also have to have, the mindset that it'll change. Like you can't be dead set. You have to be agile and you have to be able to roll with
You guys have a dedicated project manager?
So, no.
No, we all kind of do it together.
I highly suggest it. You know what I mean? So we've got a couple of project managers that kind of help out. So because we're a little unorthodox, it's difficult to have.
Yeah.
Kind of
One of our guys is actually going to school right now for that. He is like super stoked once he's done in a couple months to come back and be like, I can't wait to organize the shit out of this place. And like, you don't really want to do it anymore. No.
And again, it was lack of experience. Like, you know, we were like, we can do this shit.
Well, that's always part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's kind of our project.
I'm the art director, so I kind of take on the project management aspects of the art side of things. And now,
And he kind of just took
now
the
more than the art side of things, now it's kind of.
Well, I mean, the list that we had was, you know, that list that we made that was color coded, some of that was more or less the three of us.
I'll take away
How
for you.
many are about,
The asset list.
the asset list?
My ass! You never emailed it to me.
Shane had it.
Oh, Shane had it. I was going the wrong
That's
way.
it right there.
Yeah. All right. Tools, definitely. Whether you're using existing COTS products, which is off-the-shelf products, or you're going to develop them internally, please decide as early as possible if tools are right for your project.
Yeah.
Hard code, you know, prototype, yay.
Never
Tools.
mark coded.
What's that?
Never mark coded.
The initial prototype we usually do, but like I'd really rather build tools at this point. Like it just makes
It's our number one rule.
so it's a good rule. It's a
Yeah,
good
tools
rule.
first.
We have learned it finally. So 17
We all
steps
stated
later.
their lesson, so.
Yeah.
I think you just learn from that stuff, and that's just the kind of stuff that you have to make these mistakes in order to understand the importance of tools. I mean, I couldn't imagine if we even tried to hard code this entire game. We wouldn't even be anywhere near that.
And then communication needs to be open. You got to be able to fight about stuff. Adrian and I have famous fights. They're really good.
I stay away. I walk in,
Like people walk out of the room.
Today
I
was
don't.
Today was good. Today was good. Yeah.
Our fights are fun, but we need to fight our programmers more.
Yeah.
Not the
No, yeah, not the current. We're good.
one-ish.
But like being able to meet, we leave, we check our egos because Adrian's always been very good at calling me at my bullshit, you know, and I do the same for him, luckily. So, and when I get to name calling, it's when I realize that I'm wrong. It's my takeaway.
Looking forward, right? Looking forward.
So we're trying to lock down a publisher, which is cool because we've relaxed about our development cycle instead of rushing and freaking out and things like that. And we're also waiting until first quarter of next year because if it was to come out now,
You get lost.
it would get lost, just like our first title did, so we learned from that. It could be yours if you have the right amount of money. Anyway, you know, so we've got a couple interested parties, which is good. We've got some communication open. We're talking to some folks. We're pretty excited about
Yeah,
it.
we did a lot of damage in Q3 last year, so that
Yeah, we
really helped
toured
us
up.
out.
We got some good meetings.
Why do you guys want to go to publishing?
This is DS.
Yeah.
This is the whole housing.
It's just because it's DS.
Yeah, like I mean, like we'd have to. What is it? What did we figure out? We need to get 3,500 units made. It was a ridiculous
Yeah,
amount of
no,
money.
it's- and we have to go.
You know what I mean? Like
I mean,
it's more money than like I've already spent a lot of money. You know what I mean? And we just can't.
I mean, to get-
And like we're already committed to DS.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of, the only real advantage to the publisher is A, you know, obviously they can match your funds for the development of the project. B, get you the stores and C, good for Nintendo. I mean, we can do those other two, it's just that we would like to get compensated for all the time that we put into this.
Right.
I mean, we can go through Nintendo and go through Japan, we can get things printed, I mean, I know that people like to do that stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
you
Like
look
we
at-
have the connections. It's just about the capital.
If you're looking at anywhere between 580 to 625 for the card, it's only made like 60 So probably
Dollars.
$6.50, $6.50 per unit to get done. Then with
And
printing,
minimal units is
and with-
3,500.
but then and then with printing everything on top of it, you're looking at about a $710 cost when it's all said and done. But then it's now I got 3,500 copies. What am I gonna do? I mean, I can go to a Jack of all games, or I can go to like Coco, or I can go to these big.
But then we're
stores.
going to make $1 a unit. If
Well, I mean, we can sell
If
it
we're
for
lucky,
like, well,
you
we
know.
can sell it for like 11 or 12 bucks, but it's like, they're
We're-
not gonna buy off of us because they're just not gonna do that.
And Amazon, if dealing with Amazon, they tell you how much they're going to buy it to you.
Yeah.
You know? We're like, yeah, we have this game. They're like, $8. They're like, no. They're like, we're fucking Amazon.
There's a whole nother level to it, because then we would actually be a publisher and a developer. And
Yeah, I
we
don't
don't
think
wanna
it's
do
that.
that.
Yeah.
And then there's more cost up front with Nintendo.
My
and
wife
it's
will
just-
force me.
This is hard. All right, looking forward. And I think a lot of you know what this is. So this is
Oh, yeah.
next.
So Pixel Lincoln should actually be finished. They started, what, 4 or 5 months after us?
Yeah.
The pixelated adventures of Abraham Lincoln through time to get his magical hat back from John Wilkes Booth. My favorite is the beard orang, by the way, where he rips his beard off, throws it, and it comes back. And Lincoln is such a man, it just goes right back. It's beautiful. Lots of crazy enemies, lots of fun stuff. We've got action, dinosaurs, adventure, romance, and zombie robots.
Yeah,
So
this is a side-scrolling action platform with boss fights.
it's definitely a throwback to the bit era. We have an awesome chiptunes soundtrack to go along with it by Chip and Chris.
And we know Chip and Chris is.
Paul
They
are, right?
Is working with us. So Paul did the entire soundtrack for Pixel.
Yeah.
And it's freaking awesome.
So that'll hopefully that should be within a month or two of Pattern Block release. So that'll be happening.
Yeah.
So, and then what else do we have? New and exciting fake announcements. We put fake in there because anybody recognize the donut? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good. We have this game that we're working on, but we're not really working on it. So.
We have a lot of stuff that we're doing in the background. A lot of that has to do with Languini, really. Languini is probably the next big thing that's coming out, and we're getting really excited about that to get that done. I think that can really put us in the spectrum of board games. So.
And we're going to transition console-wise either into 3DS or Wii. We might have a Wii U project in the works. So.
We also might have a secret.
Well, we do, but yeah. So. What do you got?
Okay.
All right.
Turn the light up.
So let me put it this way then.
Yeah.
If you only have an idea, you want to run your own company, when you have the capital and everything put in place, would it be a good idea to make a GDA set if you have the right tool?
I would already have one. Like, get the idea out, get it on the table and start sharing it with people that you can trust.
Do everything that
Which is nobody, by the way.
do everything you can do that involves your money. As much as you can.
To be fair, if you have an idea in your head that you should start working on the GDD as soon as possible, realistically, I mean, the GDD kind of always fluctuates as you go, but realistically, you want to have the GDD done before you can start doing your activity list, because the GDD is going to be informed of activity list. So it goes GDD, then product, which is part of your pre-production process, and the next step is, the activity list, so you can know what our assets are.
Exactly. Realistically, you're not going to realize how much work is involved in the project until you put it all down on paper. Project's not handed off.
The funny part about that is that doing that probably wouldn't involve so much work to that more.
Yeah.
Especially if I do it in a motion way, because we have to parts too, but basically we're making a DVD, so it's good enough to be a conflict.
It's important.
All right.
Anyway, so the question I have is for the development tools. And the question, I'm not sure how to phrase it, but basically, I feel like you guys have a couple of different development tools. Was it an initial design change? You're like, okay, instead of doing an in-game style editor, that you did multiple editors to solve specific solutions rather than more of a visual editor in game? Is that something you guys consider or thought about? Or, basically, I'm kind of wondering why you made 3 separate tools rather than one. Or that was just
We wanted them to be in one kit, but at the time, our tech lead was adamant about doing it this specific way. He wanted to have it where 3 different people could be working at the same time. And we were like, it could just be a suite. It could just be a suite, and we could go in and out.
Yeah, I mean, the pattern blocks, the puzzle creator was pretty simple. I mean, that was made in a couple weeks.
And that was made by a different programmer.
And that was made by a different programmer. Then we had one that we didn't show, actually. We showed the
Tile editor.
character.
We didn't show the tile editor, we didn't show the character.
The character
editor,
generation.
which all feed into each other. Even though they're not one big suite, they still feed into
They all
each
know
other.
who each other are, so I mean, that was,
That was made by-
they were different things, they all kind of give each other, so there was an animation creator where you can put the different frames of each one of the characters and they would come out with an animation. And then there was the tile section, you could actually create the level, so Kristen would make the tiles, and she would make the background, and say, okay, this is what you have to make, bye, and then we had to make that whole thing inside that through the
Just part of the learning curve.
Yeah.
So, like, now we have an absolute understanding.
Well, I'm not criticizing, I'm just...
No, so it's good.
The big problem is that the tools weren't finished.
Yeah.
Like, we're using unfinished tools. Like, ideally, yeah, they would all be one package. but they were never
Like,
at that point.
that was the goal, and then we could cookie cutter some games. Like, we could crank out action platformers like nobody's business. It would just be waiting for art at that point. We'd be like, yeah! And then, you know, part of the
We had
five-year
the
plan.
engine, we had the engine in place and all that, and the tools are good enough, we're like, oh man, we can sell these tools to people, oh, it's gonna be great, and then, yeah, we have 2 final edits. So,
And like I said, he left, you know, our program we're working on is left mid-project, so they're both, you know, they're both in unfinished state. They're really hard to use, and we're probably just not going to use them after this project, just simply because
We're gonna.
he's not there to work on. He's not there to work on it. He's not there to work on it. So we're gonna just we're just gonna start tools from scratch with new programmers, and hopefully, you know.
My other question was, how big was the team overall, and how long was it developed?
13 people overall. I'd say up to 15 at one time. 24 months part-time. So if I was to cram it into regular weeks, it would probably be a year and a half, a year and 4 months. So realistically, like real.
but it was a lot.
Scary.
Yeah.
So it's a long time, and that's why, you know, like we got sick of tangrams. Like I can't look at those people. My kids are like, Daddy, let's play tangrams. And I'm like, no. You know, but yeah. Real quick before the next question, we have a commercial from Pattern Blocks we wanted to throw in. You ready? You know what? We'll put it up on the website. Please check it out. Next question. Let's get around here.
Yeah, is there any middleware available for DS? Because you guys have created everything.
We use a little bit.
We use a little middleware that exists. When you sign your NDA with Nintendo, you get a little bit of access to their tools, but no.
Yeah.
Generally, no. It's really all, like, you can buy stuff from other developers, but it like doubles your cost, and it just, you have to weigh the
And
options.
theirs might have 2 final edits too. So.
Yeah, so, yeah, exactly, you know, so that's what you run into, so. But, and again, the challenge of console development over, you know, other options, you know, that's why we have more developers now. It's very exciting, so we're trying to shift that way. But, you know, we'll see what happens.
Who did you get as your publisher for Tangrams, and how did you go about getting that publisher?
So, I showed up at their office one day and introduced myself and used my college credentials at the time to form a relationship. And I rolled in there, and it took me 3 years to get cool with them. I would say, and I showed up, and they just happened, like a month later, I left my card and my contact information, all that stuff, and the president of the publisher called me one day. She's like, hey, I need a graphic designer. I was like, oh, you do? Awesome, I've got some great students I'd love to send your way, blah, 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 blah. So I sent her 3 folks, and she picked one, and it turned out to be him.
And then I've been working there for a long time, and then we won't go back then because it's terrible.
So, well, no, it's not terrible. It's just too close, and there's
Too much of a
conflict. It's a conflict of interest at this point. And, you know, it's time to grow kind of thing. But it was really about getting out there and not being shy, and, you know, like really going face forward. And it's like E3, even the 6 months leading up to E3, you can't get meetings with these folks unless you're best friends with them.
Right.
We live in New Jersey. They generally don't live in New Jersey. Even Majesco, man, you gotta like kick down a door and like take one of their puppies hostage to get a phone call back. So when you roll up E3 and you're consistent and you're there every morning and you're asking for the right people, if you do your diligence, you do your homework and find out who the right people to talk to are and what title they go under. You know, like some of them are not business development. You roll up and say business development to Konami, and they're like, we don't have a department for that.
So
And they shut you down, and you're just like, I'm really sorry.
what's the right title to look for? Just release manager?
I'm sorry?
Is it release manager, or who are you looking for?
It's a music term actually. A&R people at Konami. So, but like business development is who you want to talk to. Essentially, whoever biz dev is. So. A&R, is that right? I forget what it is, but I got shut down at Konami. So. What else? We'll go back here and then here. What do you got?
You mentioned you had a couple of egos on your team and you dealt with them. How did you do that? What did you do?
Egos. It's fun.
I don't have an ego, so that's one thing. So I walk away from
I've built relationships, obviously, with all the people that we work with. So I try to be as much of a chameleon as opposed to a two-faced prick. I've been called that. As humanly possible, and I try and deal with each individual as who they are. For example, we had a guy who was working remote with us. He lived in Oklahoma. Fucker. I love the kid. I want to love him a lot. I want to even like him a little bit. I defended him for 9 months, and then he blasted me in an email one day. All right? He didn't want to talk on the phone. He didn't want to Skype. He didn't want to email either.
He didn't want to email or do his agile update.
Or do updates, let me know. He just
available.
didn't want to communicate, but he wanted to blast me and tell me that I'm a rotten bastard.
And he was available whenever.
And he was available whenever, but then when I called him, he's like, I can't talk to you. And I'm like, okay, who can you talk to? And then he sent me a text message. And like, it was just, you know what, it's just part of it, you know? Like, especially like if you go into work, so Ryan and I have been friends for a really long time. And working with your friends is difficult because there's lines and boundaries that you cross. And that's the same thing with egos, is that you run into these egos and you either squash them or you cut them out. But like, it's hard. It's not easy. I don't know, man. Like, it all depends on the individual, you know? It's really kind of a situation where you gotta run at it, and I usually punch them in the face. And that brings them down like 3 notches. I also flatter with food and booze, and then I have a serious conversation towards the end of it. That's also a good technique, so. What other technique?
I was just going to say something about that. The guy who's talking about, the one that lives in Oklahoma, has actually been my friend for about 13 years now. And I didn't, it's my fault, yeah. But
she's in on it too.
Honestly,
Karen's friends with him too.
She didn't even contact my guy on official. The thing was that I never had any of these problems until he joined our company. And that's one of those things that you learn. It's kind of like living together with someone. You learn new things about people as you work with them.
Anybody here ever move in with one of their friends? You're not friends anymore, all right? Yeah.
And honestly, and honestly, all of the egos that you mentioned are people that I still consider good friends, even though they're gone. And the only thing that you really can do if you're in the case where it is like people that you really, either you're going to develop a friendship with them or you're already in a friendship with them. And the only thing you can do is realize, you know, business and friendship are 2 completely separate things.
And as long as you can have those 2 faces, you'll be okay.
Yeah, as long as you can be like, dude, it's nothing personal, but we can't work with you.
And the one major thing about the game industry, like any other industry, is it's very incestuous, okay? Everybody knows everybody. So like, we had an issue where we didn't get along with our publisher, but I would never badmouth them. Like, they're still good people. I still go to their house for barbecues and shit like that. Like, it's all good. You know what I mean? So like, you can't let it get there. So you know what I'm talking about. But what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? So, all right. We had over here.
You mentioned you had like a wiki and all the files and stuff to keep organized.
Yeah.
How did you manage that? Like when you were in a meeting and you got a new idea, who was the one in charge of updating that stuff?
The workhorse was
John Little.
Not here today because
Not here because he's exhausted.
he was up till 6 a.m. last night. Yes, today.
We assigned it to somebody.
one designated person every time that new sprites and new things were made, and people saw different pixels that were messed up, and people would fix them, and then he would repost them, and that was it.
And it made it consistent.
And the
It
wiki
made
was
it.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's way easy because you go into the wiki and you don't know what animation you're going to put in or what the animation looks like, and you find out how many frames it is, what it's called, where it's at, and you get the you grab it and stuff.
It's our best friend. And John Little, we call John Little Workhorse.
Because he was a
Because he's just, he doesn't complain, he just does his job and he smiles the whole time. We have to check and make sure he's not dead sometimes, but.
Also, I think one thing that we did
He's still with you? You have to check to make sure he's still with you.
Best friend.
Oh,
And
yeah,
forms.
forms, yeah.
Absolutely.
If you're not working together for 40 hours a week right next to each other, you have to come up with alternate ways to
We have so many different ways of communicating. We started really deep getting into Skype. We actually had a camera that was just a Skype camera for the office that was just on when people were there, so you could just have meetings.
We'll put it out there. You guys can dial in every once in a while and just say hi, so it'll be fun. Sir.
I'm for an awkward thing. I wrote 2 questions that one just so I don't mind your attention.
Why?
It seems like having an ego is just a liability.
I wouldn't call it a liability. Sometimes egos make you into a rock star. You know, look at some of the biggest rock stars in our industry, and like, you know, you can't tell me their egos fit in. Like, you know, I mean, people change their last name for God's sakes to descriptors and shit. I mean, you know, and sometimes it works. You know, sometimes it works. It's all about the right team. And whether or not their ego is manageable. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah, it's just who you are, then that's what was your other question?
Just that I'm surprised that even though we're still typically on 8 minutes, we still don't seem to have any tools that are just consistent other than.
Well, they're all proprietary. They're all owned by other people. You can buy them. I'll tell you what, you write me a check for $500K, I'll get you a game in 6 months.
I'll buy speed.
I'll buy the shit out of some stuff, and we'll crank stuff. We'll do it together.
If you don't cash that check, I can do that.
I'm cool with that. You know, but
That one is made, like, they have Photoshop for photo, or they have Illustrator
A
for
lot of that stuff's out there.
There are game tools
For
like
Flash,
that,
they have-
but they still have a learning curve.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can get a Havoc, and you can get the different engines and things like that.
Well, even on the lower level, like the yeah.
Unity's everybody's favorite.
not just to make the house, but the tools to make the
well,
house.
it's kind of what we do. You know, it's what engineers do. So, not that I'm an engineer, just like that. Otherwise, it's fine.
Anybody else?
Why
Why do that? I mean, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, when we first started in Zone, the DS was still kind of alive. So real quick, just quick DS. Yeah, quick DS knowledge right now. The problem is that the DS really isn't dead. There are 135 million units out there. The problem is that the retailers are stopping comparing. There's still
Space.
a ridiculous amount of DS games that are in development that people are still doing. I mean, even like Way Forward is talking about DS stuff. I mean, the DS market is still alive and well. It's just that for some reason, 3 or 4 of the major guys who cut the DS in, like, they put like 35 to 40% off the 3DS stuff, and now Vita coming out, and now all this new stuff, they're just making more room for stuff way too prematurely, when they can still make a lot of money on the DS market. I mean, realistically, the DS market's going to be around for another 3 years making games. I mean, we're still making PS2 games.
I know.
The other thing is that when we started, it was just a pet project. Like, we didn't start this to be millionaires, because otherwise it would be like the funding came from our pockets. You know what I mean? So, and that's it. And that's the other big thing. And then we fell in love with DS. You know, it's like, it was like re-falling in love.
Yeah. Well, originally we were going to do XBLA.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
line is through the roof.
Yeah. That's it. And everything gets, you know, you lose your title.
And we like DS too because we're not super skilled when we started to do this. And we felt that the DS was appropriate for our.
It was also
curve
affordable.
and
It was affordable. You know, like dev kits, if you can get prices on them.
Dev kit was like, yeah, Dev kit was maybe like $3 compared to like a PS3 and a 360. It's like, it's way out of.
It's a lot more than that.
Yeah, I mean, that's way out of our price range. And then since we didn't want this whole project.
In one of his other presentations, he actually said that he system about exact figure.
We want to do a
I don't know, there's someone who
Yeah.
maybe. Maybe that's
Honestly, that's all I wanted.
yeah, but it was the exact figure. I was like,
But like,
that was good. No one ever told me that.
Exactly 6 or 7
yeah. Yeah, we'll actually make an iPhone.
So we got a lot of good stuff on there. It's just a matter of.
We found mid-development when we had 6
I know
projects
you're
going.
talking.
Yeah, not for team our size and being part-time.
Well, you're doing a pretty heavy.
The fact it's coming from
Pretty awesome, but it was just, you couldn't
juggle all these different
There's
things.
a lot.
You guys doing two
We're doing 4 projects. And that's the dumbest thing. Well, we're doing pattern blocks and pixel linking, but we have two separate teams.
Our iPhone stuff is like 2 guys, instead of it being like 4 or 5 guys. So. Yeah. Old paper style that says
Wait,
no.
we gotta do that.
Would you still suggest that people like still working for the DF, or do you think like the DF market is still going to be around? But do you think like it's still logical to start a small project on DF?
Is it a hobby or do you want to make money? Honest.
A hobby that like practice. Like you did handgrams before.
Doing a giant blast
What if
throwing
you-
the wags.
Yeah, I don't think there's any such thing as bad experience. Like all experience you can learn from. It's whether or not you can get licensed from Nintendo and get your hands on a dead killer.
And the only way you can get licensed by Nintendo is by actually having it
What's that?
up in office itself.
Yeah, can I say something about that? Like he said, you do need, like, there's some specific requirements that work for them, and a lot of people don't take into consideration when they start to think, oh, I want to do something with the SDK. Usually, if you're a small developer, like, you want to start with PC. You really want to explore what you can do with PC, or iPhone now. Yeah, iPhone's really good actually for starting development.
So iPhone's only
Like,
like $100.
when it comes to starting development on video games, starting with Nintendo, we are an exception.
Yeah, like
More than anything else.
Absolutely.
So no, I wouldn't, honestly, no.
I would. It's a difficult road. Like we stepped in crap so many times and lucked out. I'm not going to lie to you, but we knew the right people. We lined up at the right time, and the stars aligned. Like all of our hard. I guess people were smiling at us because they're like, "Man, you guys are covered in crap." Go ahead, guys. So, like it really shouldn't have worked out, but it did. So we're happy. So. Definitely sure. I've only quit like 9 times, so he talks me off the ledge.
I'm doing it. It's over.
I'm done. I'm done. I'm out.
And then he would listen to me, so I'm like, all right, we'll jump on
Yes.
Come on, dude.
Probably layout.
Dude, you know I'm gonna leave. We're gonna go. Like, if you get down, I'll give you some beers.
Beer.
More characters.
They're smeared on ice, and like,
Yes.
I have no idea how long this project is.
We had a little fun too. So, I think that's another big factor is that
Maybe we can look at something on it here that'll help
I'd say
Well, we got a shit ton of board games, let me tell you what.
yeah, so we have games you don't want anymore.
We only want one.
only want one.
A couple people.
If 2 people are like ready to change each other over jobs, we'll give them 2.
We're good?